Hi, my name is Talia. I'm one of the counselors at OSU-CHS Counseling Services, and I'm going to be talking a little bit today about pro tips to help you through your testing anxiety. So, what's important when preparing for an exam? The first thing you're going to be doing is a lot of studying. So it's best to experiment and figure out what is best for you and how you learn. So really be mindful of when you feel like you're at your best during the day. This is going to be different for every person, but a lot of us can start to tell when we feel more productive during the day. This might be in the evening, this might be in the afternoon. So start to kind of pay attention to those things and really utilize that time as much as you can. Now, when you're studying, focus on the main concepts. It's really easy to get derailed by small, confusing issues that you might come across in your textbook or a lecture, but it's likely that those smaller, confusing issues might not actually ever be tested, so try to focus on those big picture concepts. And don't cram your learning. I know that this is really difficult to do and sometimes unavoidable, but try to make this a lifestyle change that you can do and give yourself a longer period of time to study, because research shows that your brain really needs a longer period of time to encode the memory that you have of studying all of these things, and it's not going to be helpful for you to cram the night before or to even really look at notes the day of. Odds are, if you didn't know it a couple hours before, you're not going to know it during the test. What's important when preparing for the exam? Check in with yourself. Make sure you're doing okay. Make sure those basic needs are met. So sometimes you just have to ask yourself, when's the last time I ate? When's the last time, I got a good night of sleep? When's the last time that I spent some time with a friend or talked to anybody about something besides this exam that's coming up? So I think that it's important to remember that exams don't define you, because while exams are extremely important, you are more important, and you have to take care of yourself, your physical body, and these human things in order to be successful at taking exams and have a really solid foundation. And this social support as well can help lower your test anxiety in order to give you a better chance at being successful. Be realistic about expectations. So don't set yourself up for disappointment by creating goals of perfection. Exam scores don't define us, and try not to compare yourself to others. Similarly, try not to compare yourself to yourself and your past performance. It's wonderful if you've gotten an A before, but every test is different. And it's really not fair to say, oh, if I've gotten 100 last time, I have to maintain the same standard, because that type of thinking can really increase anxiety and hold you back from performing your absolute best. What's important the day of the exam? So before the exam, you want to make sure not go in on an empty stomach. With that being said, all foods are not created equal. There are some foods that are said to be helpful in terms of reducing stress, and those are fruits and vegetables. On the flip side, there are some stress-inducing foods, which include things like eggs, chocolates, artificial sweeteners, carbonated drinks, a lot of snacks that we might have, like chips and processed foods, things with a lot of spices. So really just try to know your own body and don't try new foods the night before or morning of a test. This one's really simple, but arrive on time. There's nothing worse than feeling flustered and sitting down right as a test is starting, or even late. So try to set out important things the night before, like clothes or keys, so that you know what you need and you're not looking for things that'll make you slower in the morning. If you know that you're somebody who struggles with time management, you can also try to do things such as setting timers on your phone for increments of 15 or 20 minutes up until you need to leave the house, to make sure that you're always aware of the time. And finally, avoid people who may panic you. While people mean well, sometimes discussing the exam with peers or friends or asking questions about what they studied, how long they studied, how they're feeling can really increase that anxiety without really realizing it. So sometimes it's just best to keep to yourself on the day of the test. During the exam, understand what the question is asking. So let's say that we're taking the simplest test ever, and the question asks, what day is it today? You might think, oh, this is easy. Today's the 2nd. Well, it's also a Monday. So which one's the right answer? In order to answer the question, you need to know what the question is asking. So sometimes we think we have to figure this out on our own, which definitely try to do that first and reason to make sure that you're giving it your best shot individually. However, I think that this secondary option is underutilized, which is using your professor as a resource. A lot of times professors don't mind if you clarify a question with them to find out what they're trying to ask. And if they're unable to do that, they'll simply tell you, I'm sorry, I can't answer that for you. And that's fine, at least you asked. So next, take the question one question at a time. By trying to look at the entire test at a time, it's almost like trying to read a bunch of books at the same time. It might sound like a good idea to start reading a mystery novel and a history book and an autobiography and read a chapter out of each one. In theory, maybe that's fun, but in actuality, not so enjoyable and a little bit overwhelming. So just try to be slow, be patient with yourself, and take each question as it comes. Last, use on-task self-talk. What's self-talk? Whether we realize it or not, we are pretty much talking to ourselves all the time. So keep that voice that you're talking to yourself with positive, kind, and focused. So let yourself know, I'm in control, I can do this, and try to get rid of those distractions. Give yourself instructions, task by task, and let yourself know that I'm successful. I'm taking care of what I need to do. Things are going well. And remind yourself that talking about past failures or distractions is not going to be helpful for you. And as always, if you feel like you could use further help with test anxiety, feel free to contact the OSU-CHS Counseling Services Office, and we are glad to assist you in any way that we can.